In today's video, we will continue the best trading strategy series in which we compare and backtest dozens of indicators for different purposes to find the best ones. If you didn't know, in this series I am following the NNFX trading strategy system, which consists of 5 main indicators: the ATR as a stop loss, a C1 indicator or the primary entry signal indicator, a C2 confirmation indicator, a baseline indicator, a volume indicator, and an exit signal indicator. In the previous parts of this series, we were looking for the best entry signal indicator, the best exit signal indicator, the best baseline indicator, and we also researched which assets are best for which strategy types. If you haven't seen those previous videos yet, I highly recommend you do so, as this series is probably our most valuable content filled with useful knowledge. But today we will be looking for the best momentum indicator or the best C2 confirmation indicator, testing 11 different momentum-based indicators. I have to warn you that if you are new to algorithmic trading, basic statistics and backtesting, this video might not be the best for you. My backtesting, sorting and ranking method is complex, however I try to explain everything as simply as possible. So if you are new to this, take your time, because once you learn how to do this on your own, you will be able to find the best, most useful and most accurate indicators out there. So in this video I will show you all the indicators, the parameters I will test, explain the testing, sorting and ranking method, and finally show you the results, revealing which is the best momentum indicator. If you know of other momentum indicators that you want to see tested in a potential part 2 of this video, let me know in the comments. Hello everyone, welcome to TradeSmart. Without wasting any time, let's get right into it. First of all, let's see which momentum indicators I will be testing and how will I use them. As I said, I will test 11 indicators, which are the RSI, the MACD, the stochastic oscillator, the Williams percentage R, the ADX with an EMA, the momentum, the Chanda momentum, the MTM momentum, the squeeze momentum, the CCI, and finally the true strength index. Now I will quickly go over all the indicators one by one, and then we will jump into the parameters and the testing method. Okay, let's go over the momentum indicators that we will test. The first one is going to be the RSI. Add this one. The RSI has 2 lines. The purple one is the RSI line itself, and the yellow one is an RSI based moving average. This time we won't be using that, so go to the Styles tab and untick the RSI based MA. The rule is simple. For the first part of this momentum indicator backtest video, I wanted to keep it as simple as possible. Therefore, long entries are only allowed if the RSI line is above the 50 level, and short entries are only allowed if the RSI line is below the 50 level. For example, this would have been a valid long entry, this would have been a valid short entry, and this is another valid long entry. Moving on, our next momentum indicator is the MACD. So type in MACD and add the moving average convergence divergence to the chart. The MACD has 2 lines. The blue one is the fast moving one and the orange one is the slow moving one. Again, as I want to keep this first part simple, short entries are only allowed if the orange line is above the blue one, and long entries are only allowed if the blue one is above the orange one. For example, this would have been a valid long entry, this would have been a valid short entry, and this a valid long entry. Next, the stochastic oscillator. Type in stochastic. Add this one to your chart. Again, it has 2 lines. The percentage K1 is the blue one and the percentage D1 is the orange one. When the blue line is above the orange line, it signals a bullish trend, and when the orange line is above the blue line, it signals a bearish trend. Therefore, this is a valid short entry, this is a valid long entry, and this is again a valid short entry. Next one is the Williams percentage R. Type it in and add this one to the chart. It looks like the RSI, it has only one purple line, and the rule is the following. We can only enter longs if the Williams percentage line is above the negative 50 line, and we can only enter short if it's below the negative 50 line. So this is a valid long entry here, and this is a valid short entry. Next we have the ADX with an EMA. So type in ADX, add the average directional index, and also type in EMA, and add the moving average exponential. Now click on the moving average and pull it down until you reach the ADX, then release it. This way the EMA will be displayed on the ADX chart. Now open up the EMA settings and change its source from close to ADX. This way it will move according to the ADX line. Both long and short entries are only allowed if the ADX line is above the EMA line. So for example, this long entry wouldn't be a valid entry, as the ADX line was below the EMA line. But this short entry is now a valid entry, as the ADX line is above the EMA line. This buy signal wouldn't have been a valid entry, as the ADX line is below the EMA line. Next up we have the momentum indicator. This one. It's another simple one-line indicator. Long entries are only allowed if the momentum line is above the zero level, and short entries are only allowed if the line is below the zero level. So this would have been a very long entry, this would have been a very short entry, and here's another very long entry. Next up we have one of my favorites, the Chand momentum oscillator. Add this one. It's another one-line indicator, and the rule is the same. Long entries are only allowed if the momentum indicator is above zero, and short entries are only allowed if the momentum indicator is under zero. This is a very long entry, and this is a very short entry. The next one is the MTM momentum. Add this one to your chart. This one has two lines. It has a baseline, which works like a moving average of the momentum line, and the blue line, which is the momentum line itself. Long entries are only allowed if the momentum line is above the momentum-based moving average, and short entries are only allowed if the opposite occurs, so the momentum line is below the momentum-based moving average. Therefore, this is a very long entry, and this is a very short entry. The next indicator is the squeeze momentum, and one fun fact, this is actually the most used indicator of all time. Add this one to your chart. It has a histogram-like display. Green signals bullish momentum and red signals bearish momentum, which means that we only enter longs if it's green, so for example here, and we only enter shorts if it's red. And on this sell signal it was actually green, so this is not a valid entry. But this one would have been a valid short entry. The next one is the CCI, which is the Commodity Channel Index, so add this one to your chart. Again, it's a one-line indicator, so we will use it just like any other one-line indicators. Long entries are only allowed if the line is above the zero level, and short entries are only allowed if it's below the zero level. Therefore, this would have been a valid long entry, and this is a valid short entry. And finally, we have the True Strength Index. So type in TSI and add this one to your chart. This is a two-line indicator, somewhat looks like the MACD, which means we will only enter longs if the blue fast-moving line is above the pink slow-moving line. And we can only enter shorts if the opposite occurs, so the blue line is under the pink line. Therefore, this is a very long entry, and this is a very short entry. So, these are our 11 indicators that we will test in this video. And now let's move on to the backtesting details. For backtesting, as always, I used TradingView, as if I had a coded strategy, I can get accurate backtest results for years of market data with just a few clicks. To backtest each momentum indicator in a fair way, this time I took a slightly different approach. First, I coded a simple strategy with the super trend and the range filter indicator. In this strategy, I used the super trend as the C1 primary entry signal indicator and the range filter as the exit signal indicator. Once I got this simple strategy coded, I made 11 different versions for each momentum oscillator. A quick tip: to code these simple strategies, I used ChatGPT. So if you want to learn how you can do the same, check out our other channel TradeSmart AI by clicking on the pop-up in the top right corner or find the link down in the description. I shared all of the coded strategies and the backtests with the Smart Trader tier members on our Patreon, so if you want to get access to these scripts and the backtest results, check out our Patreon and become a Smart Trader tier member. In each version I used different momentum indicators as the C2 or entry signal confirmation indicator. This means that each strategy can only enter into a trade if the C2 momentum indicator allows it. Now let's see which parameters, assets and timeframes I tested. As always, to make the comparison as fair and as diverse as possible, I tested 3 assets, 1 crypto, 1 forex and 1 stock. I tested 3 timeframes, 5 minute, 15 minute and 2 hour. I tested 2 trade directions separately, which are of course long and short. And the one thing I did different this time, I will explain why in a moment. I tested 4 times 4 entry signal setups and 4 times 4 exit signal setups randomly. It might sound complicated at first, but it really isn't. I use the super trend as the main entry signal indicator, and it has 2 parameters, the ATR multiplier and the ATR length. For the ATR multiplier, I will test it from 1.6 to 6 with a step of 1.5. This means I will test 1.5, 3, 4.5 and 6 multiplier values. Also, it has an ATR length option, and with that I tested the 5, 10, 15 and 20 values with a step of 5. I took the same approach with the exit signal indicator and with the momentum filters too. But why do I test randomly instead of testing all the possible combinations? Testing all the combinations would result in hundreds of thousands or millions of combinations, which would take me weeks or even months to complete. And as we are looking for a statistically significant edge, we don't really need to test all the possible parameters if we use a random parameter choice backtesting method. And why do I test different entry and exit signal combinations if I'm only interested in which is the best momentum or C2 indicator? To find the best momentum indicator, we need to make the backtest as diverse as possible, and the best momentum indicator should perform well in most of the conditions. For example, Bitcoin moves way differently than the Euro-USD pair, trading on the 5-minute chart is way different than trading on the 2-hour chart, and using a faster reacting entry signal and exit signal indicator, much more entries and exits, is way different than using a slow reacting entry and exit signal indicator. By backtesting each momentum, entry and exit signal indicator in these different conditions, we can get a statistically relevant and significant backtest result to determine which indicator works the best in most conditions. But what about the momentum indicators? For choosing which parameters to test on the momentum indicators, I choose a simple method. I will be testing a multiplication of the default values. For example, let's take a look on the RSI. The RSI's default length value is 14, so I will test 7, 14, 21 and 28 length. Just like with the entry and exit signal indicators, I will be backtesting each momentum indicator with random parameter settings. But now let's see the numbers. How many backtest combinations are we really dealing with, and how many I will actually test? To break it down, I took 3 of the 11 momentum indicators. The MTM momentum, the squeeze momentum and the true strength index. The MTM has 2 parameters, the squeeze momentum has 1 and the TSI has 3. Testing every possible combinations of the MTM indicator would look something like this. 4 times 4 parameters, times 3 assets, times 3 timeframes, times 4 times 4 entry setups, times 4 times 4 exit setups, times 2 directions, equals to 73,728 possible combinations. With the squeeze momentum, which has 1 parameter, this number would be only 18,432. But with the true strength index that has 3 parameters, this number would be almost 400,000. In total, we have 6 momentum indicators with 1 parameters, 1 momentum indicator with 2 parameters, and 3 indicators with 3 parameters. So to backtest all the possible combinations, I would need to do 1,393,968 backtests. This would take weeks or even months to complete. So that's why this time, to get a statistically relevant result, I will backtest the parameters randomly with a Chrome extension designed for tests like this. I will backtest 2% of all the possible combinations, which equals to 27,280 backtests. This backtest number is achievable in just a few days. If you watched this video so far, congratulations on your dedication. I hope you already gained some useful knowledge, If so, drop a like on this video to let me know if you want to see more content like this. Okay, hang on tight, we are almost finished. We only have the fees, the sorting system and the ranking system to cover. Let's see the fees and other rules next. For crypto, I used 0.05% fee per trade and 2 tick slippage. For stocks, I used the same, and for Forex, I used 20 tick slippage as fee. I will backtest each setup on the last 4 years of price data, and I set up a trade count limit to only keep statistically significant results. On the 2-hour chart, the minimum trade count is 50, on the 50-minute chart 100, and on the 5-minute chart 200. Now let's see how the sorting system looks like. To sort the 27,000 backtests, I created 18 groups. And that's because I have tested 3 timeframes, 3 assets and 2 directions. So 3 times 3 times 2 is 18. Here you can see an example group of the 5-minute chart on BTC USDT with long only direction. In each of these groups I put all the momentum indicators results that were tested on this combination. You will see why we need these groups on the next slide, the ranking system. To find out which momentum indicator is the best, so which one can improve a simple strategy the most, I sorted each group based on profit factor. But why profit factor and not net profit? As each backtest has different number of trades, using net profit as the point of comparison is not ideal. Because a backtest which has 200 trades instantly has a higher chance to generate more net profit compared to a backtest that has only 100 trades. And that's where profit factor comes in. Profit factor solves this problem as it is the gross profit divided by the gross loss. For the profit factor, the number of trades is insignificant as its ratio between the profits and losses matter. So after I sorted all the 18 groups by profit factor, in each group I gave points to the 20 best results. The backtest result with the highest profit factor will get 20 points, the second best 19 points, and so on until 1. In a different column, I also weighted the points, which is the base rank point multiplied by the profit factor. But why? Let's say in a group the top result has a 5 profit factor, and the second one only 1.5. By using the simple ranking points, the 5 profit factor result would get 20 points, and the 1.5 profit factor backtest 19 points. This way the profit factor difference is not really represented by the points. But by using the weighted points, the top result with 5 profit factor would get 100 points, and the second best with 1.5 profit factor only gets 30 points. In my opinion, this represents the true difference between backtest results more accurately. And finally, to find out which momentum indicator is the best C2 entry confirmation indicator, I added together all the base points and weighted points of all the 18 groups, and the momentum indicator which gets the most points will be the best momentum indicator. Well, let me know what you think of this system. What would you change? Do you have a better idea how to compare these indicators? Let me know in the comments. And now, are you ready for the results? Well, let's see. Finally, here are the results. Here you can see the absolute top 3 best results. These are not the point-based results, these are just the absolute best ones. At third place we had the Williams percentage R on the Microsoft 2-hour chart, long only direction. These are the settings this backtest used. And it had a 4.68 profit factor. As you can see, the second and the first place used the same asset, timeframe and direction. The second one was the ADX with an EMA with a 5.72 profit factor, and the first place winner is the stochastic with a 5.75 profit factor. Here are the absolute top 3 results based on a net profit. Again, not much has changed. All the best results are on Microsoft 2-hour chart in a long direction, and this time the top 3 best results were produced by the stochastic oscillator. Here you can see their settings if you are a smart trader and want to try it out. But now let's see the most important one, the points-based ranking. Here I took into consideration all the 18 groups and added together all the base points and the weighted points of each indicator. The 5th place goes to the momentum indicator with 87 base points and 200 weighted points. The 4th place goes to the TSI or True Strength Index with much more 214 base points and 364 weighted points. The third place winner is the MACD with 473 base points and 680 weighted points. The second place winner is the Stochastic with 549 base points and 941 weighted points. And the absolute best one, which way outperformed all the others, is the ADX with an EMA with 2100 base points and 2556 weighted points. Its base point count is almost 4 times as much as the second place winner could get, which is a pretty big difference. So overall, the best momentum indicator is the ADX with an EMA. But of course, if you want to see a part 2 of this video where I could use all these indicators but slightly different way, let me know in the comments. And to end this video, let's see a few other interesting stats. Here are the absolute top 3 momentum indicators for different assets and timeframes. For BTC USDT, the first and the third place winner is the ADX with an EMA, and the second place goes to the Stochastic. On Euro USD, there's no question, or the top 3 place goes to the ADX with an EMA. On Microsoft though, the Stochastic was the best, the ADX is the second, and the Williams percentage R is the third. If we only take into consideration the time frame, for the 5-minute chart, you can't find anything better than the ADX with an EMA. But for the 15-minute time, the first 2 place goes to the Stochastic and the third place to the MTM momentum indicator. And on the 2-hour chart, the first place winner is the Stochastic, the second place goes to the ADX with an EMA, and the third place for the Williams percentage R. All these results were based on profit factor. The previous chart was for only the top 3 results. But here you can see a different approach where I took into consideration all the top 20 results, and the indicator which appeared the most times gets the first place, which appeared the second most times gets the second place, and which appeared the third most times gets the third place. This way, on the BTC USDT pair, the ADX is the best, the Stochastic the second best, and the MACD is the third best. On Euro USD, again the ADX is the best, the MACD is the second, and the Truth Strength Index is the third. On Microsoft, the MACD goes first, the Stochastic is second, and the TSI is third. Looking at only the time frames, on the 5-minute, the ADX is the best, the Stochastic is the second, the TSI is the third. For 15-minute, the Stochastic is the best, TSI is the second, and the MTM momentum is the third. And on the 2-hour chart, the MACD takes the first place, the Stochastic is the second place winner, and the TSI is the third. You can use this chart to decide which momentum indicator you want to use on which asset and time frame combination. For example, if I want to build a strategy for the BTC USDT 15-minute chart, I would go with the Stochastic indicator, as asset-wise the Stochastic was the second best, and time frame-wise the Stochastic is the best choice. In the last spreadsheet you can see all the indicators and their points. Here are the indicator names, their base points, their weighted points, their rank which they got after the base points, their rank which they got after the weighted points, their points amount in percentage wise based on the base points and based on the weighted points. As you can see, the ADX with an EMA took more than 50% of the total points, which is absolutely outstanding. So for a part 2, I am thinking about using the other one-line indicators just like I use the ADX, so I would add to them a moving average, like for example to the RSI, and not only enter into a long if the RSI value is above 50 and enter into a short if it's below 50, but enter into a long if the RSI is above the RSI base moving average and enter into a short if the RSI is below the RSI base moving average. Let me know what you think of this concept. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe if you want to see the second part. And that wraps up today's video. If you found this video valuable, drop a like, subscribe and turn on the notification bell. It really helps out this channel. If you want to support my work and try out the 11 coded strategies I use to complete this backtest and all of our other premium TradingView strategy scripts, check out our Patreon and become a Smart Trader tier member. If you want to see a great strategy I found while doing this backtest, check out this video on the TradeSmart AI channel. And if you haven't seen the previous parts of this series where I found the best entry, exit and baseline indicators, check out this playlist. As always, thank you all for watching, Have an amazing day, and until next time, trade smart.